Camera. Hello, then welcome to Eurocontrol in Brussels. We're very happy on behalf of the Open Sky Network Board. That includes myself, that includes Matthias Schäfer, Vincent Lenders, and Iva Martinovic, that you all found your way here to Brussels. Also, of course, welcome to the online audience. Sad that you cannot be here, but we are very happy that we also able to do this hybrid format this year and expose all the interesting ideas that we will hear about during the course of the next 2 days to everybody online. I've heard from Yunzi, our TPC chair, that we will also share the videos later on our YouTube channel, whether that's possible. So we really going for maximum open dissemination here. With that, yeah, without much further ado, I think next talk is by our TPC chair, Yunzi, who has set up this amazing program for the next 2 days. And I'm really looking forward to what we're going to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, all the audience on site for joining, and also the audience online for joining us. My name is Junzi San. I'm assistant professor in TU Delft from the Netherlands. My work is related in aircraft surveillance, and that's how I first get to know Open Sky, and also in air traffic management. So most of you probably know me from the open source library like PyModS or OpenAP. So yeah, that's one of my hobby. What I like to do is write free software and share it on GitHub and let others help me fixing the bugs. And so it's really an honor to be the chair of this year's Open Sky Symposium. I don't want to have a long opening. But I want to share with you 3 fun facts about Open Sky. So it's exactly about 7 years ago in the same location, but maybe in a different conference room. That's when I hear a talk from Vincent about Open Sky. I was a first-year PhD student, just started about a few months, and then I immediately jumped on. And so a few months later, we set up our own receiver, and we were feeding the Open Sky network. So from TU Delft, we have been contributing the data to the Open Sky for almost 5-6 years now. And another thing is that fun fact is that probably this is also the first time for many of you in the audience and to join in this real live event in any kind of conferences. So for me, I'm really excited to see all these faces, that actually we can talk to each other face to face. And the last one is really that this conference probably is one of the conferences that you have the biggest audience. Why do I say that? It's because we have almost 150 participants, around 35 will be on site and the rest will be online. And the thing is that we have only one session. So imagine you go to a big conference in IWA, there are thousands of people, but you go to your session, there's only 20 people sitting there. But here, as an Open Sky Symposium, we have a platform sharing your presentation to more than 150 people at the same time. So I think it's really saying something about the openness about Open Sky. So this year we have a very focused program. If you have checked out the technical program on the website, we have prepared 5 sections for you. The first one is about Open Sky for data science. And the second one, we deal with how it's about Open Sky for air traffic management. So here we would see how data are being used for different research in the air traffic management. And of course, we will talk a little bit about the signals. That's what we do from several researchers in the network. And most importantly, tomorrow morning and afternoon, we'll have 2 sessions about environment and noise. So how researchers around the world are using Open Sky data to contribute to the sustainability of aviation. So we have in total 16 presentations. So 8 of them will be on site and 8 of them will be presented online. So I'm really looking forward for the rest 1.5 day of the presentation. And I want to have a quick thanks note to especially Rainer and Enrico. Now he's gone. For helping us to organize this conference, a hybrid format of conference, and as well as all the other PC members helping review the papers and abstract and helping us to put this amazing program together for you. With that said, I want to start today's session with a welcome speech from Eurocontrol, the Performance Review Commission. And it's my pleasure to introduce Jose Manuel Cordero Gracia, who I believe also is associated with CRIDA, right? And he will give us a short welcome and how they envision the open performance data being used for air traffic management. Jose Manuel, the floor is yours.
Okay, it seems that they need to find the slides, but that doesn't prevent me from giving you a very warm welcome on my own name and on behalf of the Performance Review Commission to this event. Yeah, we are really excited to be able to take over this kind of face-to-face events. It's really wonderful to be here. This year needs to be a hybrid. It's wonderful to have some people in the room, and I hope that those in the virtual room are able to join us as well in next year. And certainly we would like to have to have you in the room and to be able to network with you as much as possible. So yeah, I don't know if we can, we from PRC perspective, we would like to give you a short overview. I presume that many of you will be familiar with what we do, what we are, but still we would like to give you a quick overview and also to develop our vision and deliver some key messages on our expectations and future vision of the open data in terms of performance across Europe. So, well, first, the Performance Review Commission is a body within Eurocontrol that, as you know, is a pan-European organization devoted to providing support to European aviation with particular focus in the 41 member states. That's for certain. From that perspective, sorry, the PRC is providing independent, and it's very important to highlight in the independency of the PRC to all these events. And data is at the very core of it. We are providing analysis. We are providing. We are stimulating, facilitating discussions between members. We are identifying best practices and providing recommendations. And all this is done through rigorous analysis, and that necessarily relies on data. So you can imagine how important it is for us, the strong culture that the PRC has in terms of ATM performance, ATM data management. This is the European part, but of course we need to keep an eye on the external part, on the international view of all this. We need to understand how this relates to other actors such as the FAA potentially and others. And sorry, we need to keep an eye also on the dynamic environment that we have. We have a changing world. It's very clear to all of us. So the needs in terms of assessing ATM performance will certainly vary from those that we had 10 years ago. We may need to look at different things in a different way. So keeping all this kind of performance framework, the common language, the indicators that we use, and the data that fits this indicator is something that the PRC does constantly. For this, the PRC follows a performance-oriented approach, which is the very classical plan, do, check, act management cycle, but applied to performance. First, when you try to manage performance, you need to set your high-level objectives. For instance, I want to improve capacity. I want to reduce the environmental impact, while at the same time, I want to improve my cost efficiency and keep my safety levels. Those are your strategic views. In order to do that, you need to identify which are going to be your common language elements, your indicators. I want to assess this and that. And this is where data starts to appear. We need to be able to feed these indicators with the proper data, high quality data, but also available data. It's optional to use performance targets. You may use them or not. There are pros and cons in using them or not, but you may quantify some targets that you may want to reach by the application of such measures, and then you need to run your operations and analyze what happened. You need to test your indicators with the actual data coming from operations, check if there is any gap with respect to your targets or expectations, and then, if necessary, take any corrective measures. And of course, data, high quality data, transparent data, reliable data is at the very core of it. That's why the PRC is very interested in all these kind of events, which promotes in particular transparency in terms of reporting. There are three different dimensions, or a few different dimensions, but the three main ones in which this cycle can be applied. You can focus on the intra-regional, in this case, Europe analysis with a very comprehensive, deep view of what has happened in a given period of time, typically a calendar year. A good example of PRC product for this is the performance review report, which we issue yearly, and I clearly recommend you to have a look on it. And the other would be the evolution over time. Of course, when you do a deep analysis such as the one on PRR, you also look at on time, but it's not necessarily the focus. A good example on this would be, for instance, the ATM cost effectiveness study, which is the ACE report, which is another flagship product from PRC that we kindly invite you to check. And as I said before, you may have an interest to check which is your position with respect to others, to benchmark your performance with respect to other similar actors such as FAA, China, Brazil in this case. Yeah, the PRC shapes this in ad hoc reports that are also quite well known, such as those comparing the USA and Europe performance. At this point, I would like to also give you an invitation to use one of the latest products that we have. We are very proud of it. Is the website is ansperformance.eu, and is something where you can find very updated information, in particular as of yesterday. So you can download it, you can use performance, you can get performance from there, and be able to complement your research, your studies. So we kindly invite you to regularly check updates in this portal, which we are confident that might be on use. At this point, I would like to pass the ball to my colleague and PRC co-chair, Pete Weissel, who will introduce the vision of PRC in the use of open data. Pete?
I've worked in ATM research for nearly 30 years, and both as a researcher in academia and industry, and as a customer of research. And one of the things I've known through all of those research programs is the challenge often of getting access to the data that's required to do the work. And often there's a lot of work to get agreements of what data can be used, how it can be used, and finally getting a download of data. And on getting that data, much as many of the people in the papers have identified, there's then a big job of cleansing, verifying and validating the data before any real work can start. And that's why I'm delighted today to be talking about the PRC vision for open data to support transparent and reproducible performance monitoring. There's a lot of data out there, and already open data and crowd-sourced data. And if we can start to get that onto a common platform, it makes it much easier for people to be able to gain access to that data without this big challenge at the beginning of a program. And hopefully we can then start to add other air transportation stakeholders data onto that to start to build a common platform for collaboration. It won't always be easy because we know there's resistance to sharing of data, but when we can show that the platform is effective, the data is used responsibly and is used to generate real results, hopefully that's when people will want to start to be part of that. And I think from the PRC's point of view, what's really is important is what we can get out of having a common data framework. We can start to get reproducible analyses. Once something's done, other people can access the same data, do the same work and confirm that the results are real. And we can reproduce research. Analysis that's been done with one data in one area can reproduce in another area with different data, and hopefully again start to see those themes across the industry. But most important of all, to get results that can actually achieve action. The more that results are based on common and transparent data, and people can understand what's been done, the more confidence we can have in the results that are generated and use those to make a difference. Again, my experience of research and with the agency research team, one of the challenges is the pipeline from research into industry. And I think it requires efforts on both sides of industry and the PRC as part of this to be clear what we're looking for in terms of research and analysis and outcomes. And then hopefully from the research community to look at the analysis and the research that's done and look at where that leads to, where that can be applied and generate this real synergy between research and industry to drive things forward. So hopefully, as a result of having this common platform and collaboration around a building set of data, stakeholders can reproduce performance results from common samples. They can build on and further develop the framework, engage and collaborate together, and most importantly, shape future actions based on the results achieved. We can all start to feel by using this data, we can make a difference. And I think there's a real powerful vision here. It won't be easy, but it will make a real difference if we can bring it to life. Jose Manuel.
Thank you very much, Pete. We could hear you perfectly finally. So thanks to Rainer's magic, so we could hear you. Thanks a lot for joining and yeah, we move on. So with this vision that Pete has said, the PRC would like to give some key messages. I think we have listened to some of the claims and we have proposed to take action. So the PRC has been supporting this kind of open data initiative, and we would like to keep further supporting it. And we would like to do it through 3 particular specific measures. First, we would like to stimulate the discussions towards an open data platform and community, of course, across Europe. We really think this is necessary at this stage, and we would like to take a more active role. So in the short midterm, we would like to conduct discussions leading to this. For this, we would be listening very attentively these days to your identified needs and challenges, and look for inspiration and trying to find something that accommodates your needs in line with our expectations as well as described by Pete. Second, we would like to promote a catalyst effect in the provision of new data sources beyond surveillance. We would like to explore the powerful and existing links of PRC to identify potential new actors which provide open data. For this, in the direction also described in our vision, we will need to prove and bring benefit. So it's very important to consider the application dimension in all of this. And third, in line to stimulate the application and to identify any promising research activities that can be of potential uptake for PRC activities, we would like to actively promote this. This year, we would like to to identify some potential application between the work that is going to be presented these 2 days. We will issue letters of achievement for them, but we will also follow up discussions with them and try to see how their findings, the results, their prototypes can be incorporated into PRC activities. This may include the provision of an adult data set enriched with different data sources as needed. It's something that will depend on these candidate features. With this, we hope that we can further develop this vision and keep pushing in this direction actively. Final words, thanks a lot to Open Sky Network, its community for supporting and making this event possible. And I wish you all, including ourselves, very, very interesting sessions, very fruitful discussions, and a lot of interaction. That's why we are here for. So thanks a lot for joining and for being here.
Thank you, Jose Manuel and Peter, for this nice introduction and welcome speech to the Open Sky Symposium. And we do see there's a lot of synergy there between the initiative of PRC and Open Sky. So that's to make the research reproducible, data more open. And next, we'll hear a very interesting keynote speech from Eurocontrol. Will be given by Patrick Tasker and Andrew Simpson. They're both from the technical and data side, data services within the network management from Eurocontrol. And now I would like to give the floor to Patrick. Patrick, the floor is yours. You could either come here or stay there. Yeah.
If you can share the slides, thank you. Well, that's okay. You just click them. Yeah. Good morning. Yes, my name is Patrick Tasker. I'm responsible for the data services within Eurocontrol. So our job has been to try and bring together all the different data sources that we treat within Eurocontrol to make them more available for the general different departments within Eurocontrol as well as external stakeholders. So I'll just hand over to Andy Simpson, who's going to introduce the particular project, and then I'll come back in. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is to introduce the project that we've been working on for the past couple of months, which is an ADSB data fusion project, which combines 3 different sources of data at the moment, but as time goes on, we're landing more and more different sources of ADSB data from airports. There are a number of programs taking that, and we have receiver networks being rolled out all across Europe. So this is an ongoing process, but this particular piece of work was to merge 3 data sources we have to try and produce a gate-to-gate model for reference trajectory joined with flight plan data. And with that, we wanted to produce some KPIs and milestones based on that, which we could make public. These are briefly the milestones and the KPIs that we will be producing in the near future. I'll not go through all of them, but I imagine this will be in the slides that will be distributed. So the environment that we've got, it's we have a big data Cloudera public cloud environment, and we've used the Cloudera machine learning experience and Spark to do the processing. It's about a 10-node cluster. We've taken a 3-day sample of traffic. That's 270 million ADSB messages and 25,000 flight plans a day at the moment. With COVID, traffic's a little bit down, and the processing time takes around 90 minutes.
Yeah, okay, so just before we dip into the technical details of the project that Andy's been working on, and as you've mentioned already, the criticality of getting hold of data, being able to use it, and so this slide is generally about that. Within data services, we feed in data from many different areas. So I thought I'd share this with you. So we have the operational systems of the network manager. So we take a feed from that, and that's been our principal source for many years. But we do also receive there's new data sets that we add into the NM data. So we've been receiving airport slots for many years now, schedules, military missions, and we have our own fleet database. So that's kind of what we call our kind of core data that supports our NM operational data. But since then, since I suppose 3 years ago, the ADSB data has been becoming a prime source. We now feed into our our data hub that we're establishing, the Arion data from satellite ADSB data. Likewise, we're pulling into the same big data stack, the flight radar 24 data. And then within Eurocontrol, there's sort of business areas, large departments who have their own various projects to support ATM. We have the CNS, the Communication, Navigation, and Surveillance departments, each with multiple project areas like RBSN, PBN, CPDRC, et cetera, et cetera. It's very large, and they're also capturing with monitoring devices ADS-B data to improve that source. At the same time, we have the airports, I suppose, business group, which has also many departments or subunits with projects related to airports. They are collecting more ADS-B data on runways at airport level, at the ground level, so we can enrich that part of the story when we're talking about gate to gate. So that's being pulled into the same big data stack. The fourth category, if you see on the left of the screen at the bottom, this is just to sort of summarize the business areas we have across Eurocontrol, very specific projects all contributing to ATM. They have their own applications and they're collecting data. So we also consider them as a source. So they're also added in to our data hub. So we're essentially trying to build up this data hub that enables more generalized use. And to make it usable, people have got to be able to find the data, understand the data. It's got to, you understand the limits of the data, what it can be used for, how accurate it is. And so for that, we essentially established data governance. The data governance for us is critical because without that, just making data available to everybody, we know will be a bit chaotic. You'll all be doing things in different ways. And if everyone doesn't understand the same picture, it becomes kind of unusable. So this remains of areas we've been working on. So data is kind of consumed either sort of by B2B from the NM operational systems, that's available already. But we also, because Eurocontrol is quite big with all of these business areas and all this data coming into the central pot, okay, we're calling it like a data hub. It's the sort of Eurocontrol or aviation data hub within Eurocontrol. But there are other data hubs being established with different organizations. You've got EASA, you've got Airbus. And so bit by bit, we might be interacting with them. From the data hub, there's a lot of data products being created. Web applications, business intelligence, analysis, machine learning tool sets. This is what Andy's going to go into. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's been a huge growth in self-service analytics, where individuals with tools like Tableau, Power BI, with data science tools, it's much easier for them to process the data. So less the technology division doing the work for them, it's more the business areas doing the work themselves. So that's we're trying to enable. And that's, I think I'm going to leave you here so that Andy can show you one example of what they've been doing in this sort of AI data science, self-service analytics domain, consuming from the data hub.
This slide's just to show, I have my glasses put. How the big data stack in Eurocontrol has evolved over the recent years. We've gone from a on-premise Cloudera free version, and we're moving at the moment. We're now on the Azure public cloud using Cloudera CDP, and so we've moved away from static clusters, and we're using the latest and greatest Kubernetes-based scalable clusters for data warehousing and the machine learning experience, which is also for Spark and data analytics. And this is based on the Azure data lake, but we have ranger to grant permissions during the self-service provisioning process. Okay, so down to the meat of what we've actually done in this project. So we took 3 sources of data. One was the CPR messages from all the radars that Eurocontrol is connected to for the operational systems. One's Flight Radar 24, and the other is Ariane, which is the satellite-based data. So on the top graph is a vertical profile, which shows a particular aircraft, and on the bottom you can see its route. So you can see it starts, I think, in Atlanta and flies to Fiumicino in Rome, and you can see the green represents the Ariane data, and the blue the CPR data, and the red Flight Radar 24. They come at different rates, so we get about 1 message a minute from Ariane, and something similar on the CPR data. But the Flight Radar 24, it's once every 4 seconds, so it tends to dominate when we have it available. But you can see the benefit from merging the 3 different data sources, because they have quite different coverage, especially over the oceans away from where the other receivers tend to be. So like that, we can get to a level of quality that wasn't possible before by merging all the different sources. So on the subject of quality, one of the things we have to do is to throw out a lot of the data points that we do receive. So when we get less than 100 points in a certain period of time in a day for a particular 24-bit address, echo 24-bit address, or the trajectory doesn't go over 100, doesn't start under 100 feet or reach 10,000 feet, we exclude it, because we can get this data in the data set like what's shown, which is basically a ground vehicle at London Heathrow driving around for 3 days. So there's a lot of data like that needs to be excluded when we're trying to build the model for reference trajectories. So this is essentially what we do. We group all the ADS-B data by the AKO 24-bit address, and then we split it into flights. So for in one day, there potentially an aircraft will have multiple flights, but it tends to spend a ground interval of at least 15 minutes, and obviously the altitude goes down to the ground. So on that basis, we split all the trajectory points into separate flights, and then based on the first and last point of each flight, we can join that geographically with the airport of departure and destination, and then we can use that to join it with the flight plans that we have from our other NM systems. We receive all the flight plans for any aircraft flying in Europe. So this allows us to generate those reference forward trajectories joined with the flight plans. So, and we're managing to match 70% of the flight plans today. So you can see in the bottom right that's the merged ADS-B information, the red being Flight Radar 24, the blue the correlated position report messages, and the green being the Ariane data. And you can see that above that, the colored, the algorithm has split and assigned different colors to the different flights. And those flights in the same color are the ones on the small map on the left-hand side, and they can determine the aerodromes of departure and arrival. So in addition to merging the data, we have some tools to increase the quality and remove some of the errors in terms of pruning we have a technique to look at the total error over the trajectory based on the velocity, and sometimes there can be a point that's out of whack, and so we can come up with this cost function that indicates that where a point may be subject to error, and that can be removing the some of the errors in the system, and that work is also ongoing at the moment. So, so as you can see, the algorithm seems to be. This is just another example of the algorithm behaving in a correct way. Likewise, this. So I said as much as 70% of the data, but there is still some cases where we don't have the coverage, and the algorithm, the way it works is if the ADAS isn't found, if the ADS-B feed cuts out, as you can see in the top right, and on the trajectory that's in the bottom left, it won't manage to join it with the airports, and hence we won't manage to join it with the flight plans. So in future work, we will further enhance that technique, doing many more points of comparison on the trajectories and not be depending on the ADAP and the ADAS, and like that try and push up the completeness of the model for trajectory. So I think that concludes my slides describing where we are with the project at the moment. So if we have any questions.
Thank you, Patrick and Andrew, for this nice keynotes on open ADS-B data fusion. Yeah, so we do have about 10 minutes that is opening for answering questions from on-site audience and as well as from the online audience. So for online audience, please feel free to type your questions in a Q&A session on the Zoom. And we probably will open the floor to the on-site audience as well. So if you want to speak up, just turn on your mic and feel free to speak.
Yeah, let's see if you allow me, I maybe come in. There's one question. This goes to José Manuel. Good. Yunzi, if you allow me to come in, there's one question that goes actually towards the PRC representatives here with José Manuel and Pete. So out of the scenario and vision you described, what could be a potential priority area for, let's say, next year's Open Sky Symposium type of research?
Okay, well, it's something we are looking for inspiration here. Is not yet confirmed. We need to identify also in the directions set by Pete. But what we are looking for is something that is able to identify, in particular, trends, precursors, something that can give us different understanding of the performance issues that are impacting or are affecting your control member states, overall results. So in this kind of context of open data, what we are looking for is something different, complementary to what we have today. Something that is interesting to consider is that we do not foresee only this platform as something to be used by research. We can envision some, even some ANSPs who already have, of course, regular access to data. They provide, they produce their own data. Maybe checking this kind of open data, because it's very clear that at some points, in some cases, ADS-B is preferable to some other operational data which has less frequency. So this kind of research, improving the current state of things, both in performance analysis and also in how things are assessed nowadays with new ways of assessing is something we are really looking for.
Thanks for that, Jose. I'm just checking here, then there's one question in the chat, and this goes to Indy and Patrick. Obviously, in your presentation, you were referring to Flight Radar 24. Could OpenSky used instead?
Indeed, we're only using those 3 data sources right now, and we intend to add to those. And I hope OpenSky will be one of them. So there are many internal data sources that we're onboarding, but going forward, I don't see any reason why not, but why we won't start to land that, given the cooperation that we have. Any further questions?
I have a lot of I guess this one is for me. It's out of interest, would Data Hub be accessible to researchers respecting the data governance? So we have a lot of requests of data, but it becomes very complex sending out large quantities of data to different organizations just to keep tabs on it. Because people will take that data, then have more questions about it, and then you have to make fixes, etc., etc. So what we're trying to do is, since we've established the Data Hub in the cloud, we want to make it more easy for people to actually share on our platform, because as we have very large quantities of data, they're in one place, and we now have the capability of processing power, which we didn't have before, because we can expand it, as Andy explained, with these expanding clusters, etc. And the capability for others to join, to access the Data Hub and do the processing where the data is, using the data science tools, etc., that we make available. So in a way, we're trying to encourage a sort of community of users, so they can via the data governance better understand what data sets that they can use, and then consume it, be guided how to, for their particular use cases, what might be the best ways to do it. So that was the kind of approach we were going for. Would it be accessible to researchers? I don't see why not. We know already for researchers via the Stat4 data provision capability that's been around for a few years. Researchers have been able to take samples of profile data, flight data. I know that's being used quite a bit, but obviously things have moved on since then. But I don't think that should be, I think researchers, it makes sense that they would do the processing here rather than us sending out quantities of data to them.
Thank you, Patrick. I think there's another question from Jean Bouquet. Is that what are the intended users for the fused ADSB data? I guess in addition to the researchers potentially.
Well, I can maybe come in from a performance review unit perspective. Obviously, we are pushing for analytical data capabilities. And I think as Jose Manuel has presented it, and also what we currently publish and cooperate here with the OpenSky network, is in all dimensions of operational performance measurement. This goes from capacity, and I think we are all aware of the current climate discussion. Personally, I foresee that the dialogue about aviation and climate change in 2022 and beyond will be based on data analytics and brutal transparency. So at one point in time, the stakeholders will no longer be able to hide behind that there were constraints. It will be demonstrated who has implemented what efficient either operations or routes. So I think that is probably the big topic ahead of us. while in general, obviously, as Jose Manuel has presented, we are certainly in all areas of performance. Now, I don't want to speak for all Eurocontrol areas. You can basically go through all the different business domains, and Patrick has pointed out that there's a huge number of self-service analytics because obviously Eurocontrol is about air traffic management, and accordingly we need to have timely, readily available, high fidelity data on all questions surrounding efficiency of flight operations.
Thank you, Rainer, for the very interesting and insightful answers. I was wondering if anyone from the on-site audience have a question. Too shy to speak up? I think we're all used to the virtual format. Okay, so if no one have a follow-up answers, I would like to thank all 4 speakers for this welcoming session and the keynote sessions. And well, with applause to all of them. I think that will officially kick off the technical sessions of the Open Sky Symposium. But before that, we will have a 10 minutes short coffee break, so you can refresh your mind again, get some coffee kick in your system, and then we'll be back here right on time at 10 o'clock. We'll start our first session with Open Sky for Data Science. See you in 10 minutes.